Today, we're diving into some of the most significant upcoming changes to LTL shipping in years. Specifically, the new National Motor Freight Classification, or NMFC, updates that are taking effect July 19th. These changes represent the first major wave in a shift towards density-based freight classification, impacting how LTL shipments are rated, quoted, and billed. To help us unpack what this means for shippers, we're joined by Mike Sanders, Director of Pricing here at Averitt. With over 30 years in the LTL space, Mike offers clear insights onto what's changing, how it may affect your freight, and the simple steps you can take to get prepared. Let's get started.
Yeah, I'm Mike Sanders, based out of Cookeville, Tennessee. Been with the company 31 years, and we're here today to talk about the upcoming NMFC changes, and hopefully, help you navigate, any changes that it makes to your operation. So we'll move. We'll move forward here. There you go. Just to go back to the start, the NMFTA was created in 1936 by the Interstate Commerce Commission. It was charged by the federal government with establishing standards for the LTL industry. Standards for things like packaging, liability, shippers' responsibility, carriers' responsibility, and engagement. And they've been doing this for about 90 years. They meet once a quarter, every year, and they review products to determine what freight classification, they determine freight classes, and if a product's manufacture over time changes and looks different, the density rises or falls, they make changes to the freight classification. And freight classification, now it has evolved since 1936 into this 17 layered freight class level, everything from 50 to 500, the denser stuff being on the low end and the less dense stuff being on the high end. This was adopted from the railroad industry going back in the 1800s. But the LTL freight classification structure now has this sort of range, and it was intended to make sure that rates were compensatory for carriers relative to the density of a product, because carriers charge based on the pound or per hundredweight. 500 pounds of potato chips takes up a whole lot more space on a trailer than 500 pounds of nuts and bolts. So the heavier the product, the denser the product, the lower the class. And what has happened over many, many years, it has evolved from this sort of it's evolved from an arbitrary class that was assigned by the NMFTA for a lot of products many, many years ago into if any of you have seen it now, the NMF 100, the classification guide looks like a New York City phone book. I mean, it's massive, and you have to sort through it to find individual, where your specific commodity has a classification designation. Well, what this is an attempt to simplify it and get it back to a more density-based application, and which is what the intention was from the get-go. It has the density-based scale, and the NMFTA has identified 3,200 products that are moving from a arbitrary specific class to a density-based scale, and that's happening on July 19th. And this says the first wave of changes. If you notice on this slide, it says first wave July 19th, because there will be other changes made over the next few years. Whether that's a year from now, 2 years, 3 years, you will have other products that are migrated to this density-based scale. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, it's an attempt to simplify the classification and make it easier to calculate freight class using density across all types of products, and it aligns more closely with international shipping standards. If any of you ship internationally, you already know that you are obligated legally to put the cube on the bill of lading. You have to put the space occupied on the bill of lading, and that this is an effort by the NMFTA to more closely align the LTL industry with that sort of trajectory. Any of you that ship plastic articles. I mean, there have been dozens of commodities over the last 4 or 5 decades that are subject to a freight class based on density already. Plastic articles being one. And this is an illustration of what the item looks like for plastic articles. If you ship plastic articles, travel bags, NOI, auto body parts, there are dozens of them now that are subject to this sort of structure. And the class of each individual shipment is dependent on the density of that shipment. If the shipment is 2 to 4 pounds per cubic foot, then it's a class 250. If it's 12 to 15 pounds per cubic foot, it's class 85. And shippers for a lot of these type of products have been having to identify the density on every single bill of lading in order to identify the class for many, many years. The scale that NMFTA is moving to on July 19th looks like this. It is adding 2 layers at the low end of the range. I talked to a customer a couple of weeks ago that asked about how theirs would be affected, and they actually shipped a product that was subject to density like this, like plastic articles. And they had the 3 examples they gave me, they were between 35 and 50 pounds per cubic foot. So their freight classification is actually going to be going down. They've been shipping at class 60 for years because it was subject to this. And now it's the old scale. Now under the new one, they're actually going to benefit from a lower class. So this is not anything that hasn't been done for decades. It's just the NMFTA's attempt to cast a broader net to incorporate more products with this type of classification. Now, there are a lot of products. I said 3,200 products that are being migrated to this format. There are a lot that aren't. There are a lot that are retaining their existing freight classification. And those are ones that have been identified by the NMFTA as not likely to lend themselves to ideal stowability on a trailer. Because carriers charge based on space, they can only charge based on weight, but it has to correspond to space occupied on a trailer. If you have products like, think ladders, pallets of like 8-foot aluminum ladders, 8 by 2.5 pallets that can't actually load on or around anything to utilize the full use of the trailer, those types of products are retaining their existing class. And a lot are changing, a lot are staying the same. But we have a tool that we can show you, and we'll get to that in a moment, that will help you identify how it's going to affect your product. 3 steps to prepare. Number 1, review your product's packaging, both for efficiency and protection. Because a lot of products are moving to a density-based class, whatever you can do to make your product more dense, to reduce padding or without affecting the integrity of the packaging. Whatever you can do to make the product more dense, make it more easily stowable, it will only help drive the freight class down and ensure lower rates for your company. Also, you can go to determine. We have a density calculator on the averitt.com website. You can go there and key in the DIMS, and it will calculate the density for you and show you what the pounds per cubic foot is. Classification of the freight that does not have special handling stowability would be subject to the scale shown on the screen here. And the NMFTA.org, you can go on their website and access, submit questions to them. If you're not sure about your NMFC item number for your products, you can send information to them and send them questions, and they will help assist you identify what your products are currently moving under, which NMFC item number. Understand the effects of freight classification. Talk with your carriers, make sure there's no surprises on either end. And also, we've been asked a lot of people think they're supposed to begin putting the dimensions on every single bill of lading. That is ideal. Carriers would obviously prefer that because there's the visibility is much greater, and the understanding, there's less uncertainty in the transaction, but you are not obligated to put the DIMS on the bill of lading. All a shipper is obligated to do is provide a complete and accurate description of the products and the actual class. And if you can do that, as long as it corresponds to the density, then it's all good. But obviously providing the DIMS is beneficial for all parties. Preparation tips, investing in dimensioning equipment. When dimensioners first started becoming prevalent in the LTL industry about 10, 12 years ago, the initial ones were, $75,000, $80,000 and pretty pricey. And the good thing is now that with technology improvement, over time, the prices come down on a lot of these, and it may be cost beneficial for you and your operation to purchase these and work in it, so you already know and can scan and dim all your stuff before you send it out. And there's less uncertainty, less corrections, less upheaval in the invoicing process. It tends to be beneficial if the return on investment is there for you. Collaborate with carriers to understand the changes. The reason we're having sessions like this for our customers is because we want to avoid any pain. This is new for us too. This is not an Averitt thing. This is an LTL industry thing. So all carriers and all shippers are having to navigate this just like you are. And we're having sessions like this with our customers just to make sure that we minimize the headaches and hiccups and surprises on the back end. Preparation tips. Also, you can go to the MyCarrier TMS or Averitt Connect platform, which has been for several years already had a suggested class. You key in the DIMS and it coaches you through how to identify the class based on density. And that's a very beneficial tool. And also utilize NMFTA tools. On their website, they have webinars, they have instructional videos about how things are changing and how to accommodate those. And Averitt expertise, we can help you. If you have questions regarding what your current products NMFC item numbers are, or any questions about what may be changing, you can contact your transportation specialist, and they can involve our inspectors. We have a network of inspectors in the system that can review and look at your product as it comes over the dock and give the transportation specialist feedback regarding what the proper NMFC item number is for those products. How to determine the appropriate class for your freight. Okay, you divide the weight by the freight, its volume. It's fairly simple. We're going to provide everyone a copy of this slide deck, everyone on this webinar, so that you can refer back to it. But there's a number of ways to determine the appropriate class, calculate the freight density, like I said, using platforms like Averitt Connect or MyCarrier, or Averitt Averitt website, the density calculator. You can refer to the NMFC manual, the NMFTA website. The NMFTA has a product called Class IT, a piece of software that they sell that it continually updates and allows users much more visibility to oncoming changes and in the freight classification of certain products. You can consult with industry experts, freight brokers, experienced carriers can provide guidance. Accurate classification not only affects shipping costs, but also impacts liability insurance coverage. Misclassification can result in additional fees or increased risk of damage, which is what we'd all like to avoid. The actual calculation for a density-based freight classification is on this slide here. It's length times width times height in inches divided by 1728. That's the number of inches in a cubic foot, and it gives you the pounds per cubic foot. Next, we have a video here that's going to walk you through it. It's about a 3-minute video. Please bear with us. It provides some helpful information.
All right, well, now we have some freight to measure. Would you mind giving us the walkthrough?
Well, first thing we do, of course, we walk around the freight, make sure there's no damage visible whatsoever. Then we take length times width times height. Now, when we do the length times width times height, we have to measure it from longest point to longest point. You know, sometimes we have shippers that put a cone on top that says do not stack. Well, we'll have to measure to the top of that cone. Or sometimes we'll have shippers that'll have an oversized pallet. Well, we have to measure the pallet. And if the freight overhangs, then we have to measure the freight. Whichever one is longest point to longest point. And in this case, it's going to be the pallet. So we'll go down through here. So it's 44 by 36 by 48. And then we'll write that down, we'll record that down. Now, how we figure the densities on this, we'll take the length times width times height, multiply that all together, and then we'll divide that number by 1,728. Where we get 1,728 is 12 times 12 times 12, which is how many cubic inches are in a cubic foot. Say this one comes out to 50 cubic feet. Then we'll take the weight, and we'll say that it's 600 pounds, and we'll divide 600 pounds by the cubic footage. So 600 divided by 50 would be 12. So the density of this pallet would be 12 pounds per cubic feet. Now, on a density scale, you're looking at anywhere from a class 400 all the way down to a class 60. So depending on where that falls, say 12 pounds per cubic foot would fall between 12 and 15, which would be a class 85. So this particular shipment would be a class 85. And that's how we figure that up.
And if you're not an expert at math like myself, you can also go on averitt.com/density-calculator to input your numbers to get the actual density as well to help speed up the process.
Yes. All you need to know is the measurements of your shipment and the weight of your shipment. You can put that into our calculator and it will figure the density for you.
Great, and we'll show how that works. All right, now that we're on the Averitt website, we can get to the density calculator. So when we're here, we can put in the number of pieces for the shipment, which was 1. Then we can put in the length, which was 44 inches. Then we can do the width, which was 36 inches. And then we can do the height, which was 48 inches. Finally, we'll put in the weight, which we said was 600 pounds. Now that we've put those points in, we can calculate it. And now we have our measurements at 44 cubic feet with a density of 13.64.
Okay, thank you. Now we have put on our website, the Averitt website now has on the rate quoter portion where you can key in, we've added fields for DIMS, for length, width, and height. It's not required to pull a quote, but you can enter that and it will calculate the density for you and help coach you into finding the proper class if you're unfamiliar with it. That's a nice feature. We've also changed, done some programming to make sure that if you use that rate quoter to initiate a bill of lading, then the bill of lading will also show, it'll automatically put the DIMS and the freight class and all on the bill of lading for you. If you use our website to initiate that, it can save you some steps. Very helpful. We mentioned before that NMFTA had a tool that would help you find out if your product is changing or not. They have set up this website, getclassification.com, and we encourage customers to use this extensively and very quickly. This is a temporary site that will not be up very long. They may take it down maybe by the end of August, but it is, you can use this. It is absolutely free. It does require registration. You will have to key in your contact information, but it is absolutely free, and you can go and key in your current NMFC item numbers, and it will tell you whether or not that item is changing and whether it's changing or not, and if it is changing, what it's moving to. The examples on the screen here, it shows the third example. It shows that the current item was 25863, and it moved to 25525. New item, full density. That is one that was not subject to density, that is moving to a full density freight class, like we showed earlier. The second example there, the 47500, it was already full density, but it's moved from 11 layers to 13. And then the one at the top, the 11250, it says is not part of the changes. That means that freight class is not changing. So you can go and key in your NMFC item numbers. You can either key them in one at a time and get this sort of feedback, or you can key in multiple ones like it's shown on the screen here with commas between them, and it will give you a list of them. And if you'd like, if you have a ship warehouse, you have like 80 SKU, and you want to load up 80 different NMFC item numbers, you can do so with a CSV file, and it will load back an entire CSV file that you can download and distribute internally. But again, this is a temporary site that is available. It will not be up very long, maybe another 60, 90 days. So we strongly encourage people to use this as much as you can, as quickly as you can. It walks you through the steps when you get on there. Once you register, it walks you through the steps as to how to do it. It's mostly self-explanatory. If you have questions, you can ask. You can send questions to nmfta.org on their help site, or you can ask your TS, and we'll try to help you if you get a message back that you're unsure what it means. But use this as quickly as possible. And finally, in summation here, this is we encourage people to invest in freight class calculators, make use of the technology that is more prevalent and much cheaper now. Consult NMFC manual, build strong relationships with your carriers, talk about this, talk about how it's going to affect them and you, and make sure you avoid unpleasant surprises on the back end. And the most important one to me is the last one. Continually educate yourself as a shipper. Make sure you're keeping up with industry changes. NMFC sites, you can follow webinars and newsletters and updates that you can stay ahead of changes that are taking place in the classification environment. And anything you can do. If you have questions, ask your transportation specialist, and we'll be glad to help you as best we can. But again, we're conducting these for the benefit of our shippers and for us. It's a new thing for us, but I think if we work together, it can be a positive and easy transition for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for watching. As Mike explained, these NMFC changes are designed to bring more consistency to LTL freight classification, but they also bring new considerations for shippers. Whether you're managing a few pallets a week or coordinating high-volume LTL shipments, understanding how density affects freight classification is critical. The good news, you're not in this alone. Averitt has the tools, technology, and experienced people that are ready to help you evaluate your freight and make informed decisions. Reach out to your Averitt transportation specialist with any questions. We're here to help support you in every way that we can. Take care and stay tuned for more updates and resources.